A beautiful sight in South Philadelphia on this late Sunday morning as we get ready for second round playoff 76ers basketball. Today, the Sixers, the 1 seed out of the East, welcome the 5 seed, the Atlanta Hawks. Both teams emerging from the first round in 5-game wins. The Sixers obviously dispatching the Washington Wizards. Last we saw the Sixers was on Wednesday, and the Atlanta Hawks doing the same to the New York Knicks. Welcome to second round game day, the 76ers in the Eastern Conference Semifinals. For the third time in the last 4 years, I'm Brian Seltzer, Lauren Rosen. Great to see you in the house. It looks like a sea of red in the center, but of course, the operative today is to come together, not move apart, bring this massive 76ers sea of humanity together and get this thing started on the right note.
It took my breath away a little bit, Seltz, when I came in here and saw all of the red. I'm so looking forward to the fans packing this building, technically at 100% capacity for Game 5, but there are definitely going to be more fans than there were at Game 5 tonight. Really looking forward to the energy that this group has consistently brought. And worth noting that the players and Doc Rivers have expressed their appreciation for the energy that these fans have flooded the building with all throughout the playoffs. The energy in here is high. I am looking forward to what's to come in a little over an hour.
All right, Lauren, let's get right down to business. The main thing that anyone out there wants to know about is the status of Joel Embiid, the 76ers MVP candidate. We're going to hear from Doc Rivers in a moment, but Lauren, what can you tell us about what the Sixers did yesterday at the 76ers training complex in Camden and what we might be able to expect or not expect for today?
Well, the good news is Joel Embiid has been with his teammates throughout this ride. He was at Game 5. He warmed up before Game 5. He was on the bench with his teammates. And then as the team has practiced at the training complex throughout the last couple of days, Joel Embiid, again, has been with his teammates, doing what he can. Doc Rivers said yesterday that he wasn't doing much contact, but he was out there going through his sets. He's been with his teammates. Looking forward to seeing what we get as the final verdict for Joel Embiid today. But as of now, he remains questionable. Doc Rivers talked about it a little bit ago, and I think we're going to hear from him shortly.
Some of the teammates of Joel Embiid providing positive feedback for what Joel could do yesterday. Dwight Howard having a lot of positive things to say. But the bottom line is that for probably another 40 minutes, 45 minutes or so, we just won't know. All we can do is, like you out there, read tea leaves, keep our fingers crossed, and hope. Here is Doc Rivers speaking before the game, and he'll be asked about Trey Young and then get into Joel Embiid.
Talk a little bit specifically about what makes Trey Young so hard to flatten out, keep him from getting downhill with Clint Capella.
Well, first of all, speed, his ability to shoot, his ball handling ability. And he has an extremely high IQ. So, he's tough. He's a tough coverage. Every night for everyone, he'll be a tough coverage for us.
Jack McCaffrey. What's the difference between this team and so many others? You're just able to play without an MVP candidate as well as you have. 9 of your last 15 without Joel Embiid. Just won an elimination game by 17 points without him. The team seems to have an ability to change styles pretty quickly. What's the secret, if you can share it?
Yeah, Jack, I don't know if it's a secret. I think it's growth. I thought early in the year, Jack, we struggled without Ben or Joel. And as the year went on, we got better. We got more adept to playing different styles. I think we got used. There's times when Joel didn't play, and there's times when Ben didn't play. And we had to make a decision at some point. Are we going to still be a good team and win games, or are we going to use that as a crutch? And I think our guys decided we're going to still be a good team. And that has really served us well. And obviously, having gone through that helped us big in the playoffs the other night.
Love that tone, Lauren. Love that message that Doc Rivers and the 76ers embraced. And it really was a pretty convincing closeout victory over the Wizards on Wednesday night to wrap up the first round in 5 games. Seth Curry, one of the 76ers who stepped up in a big way, a very timely moment for him to drop a playoff career-high 30 points as we take a look at Mr. Curry warming up at the center.
A big game indeed for Curry to have his best playoff performance in his career, arguably with that playoff career high 30 points. Worth also remembering that Tobias Harris also had his playoff career high, as did Joel Embiid in that first series. So these guys are rounding into form in a big way. Love what Seth, Tobias, Ben have all said about the fact that they know that they can win with or without Joel. It's a confidence thing, and these guys have that confidence. That game 5, I think, Celts, was huge for confidence, understanding that they can get the job done with or without the MVP candidate.
So many players, as you said, Lauren, put their hands in, everyone on deck, contributing to that victory on Wednesday night. We mentioned Seth Curry, Tobias Harris, great finish to him for what was an outstanding first-round series for him personally. Ben Simmons with a triple-double, and he talked about the 76ers keeping things together despite not having one of the best players on the planet available.
Yeah, I mean, every game we play will be really important. Game 1, though, of course, being at home on our court is going to be, something we want to come out with. That's the right energy, and we want to be locked in. So, that our focus every time we step on that floor is to impose our will and to dominate. And that's our mindset. That's our mind frame. And, we know that. And going into tomorrow's game, that'll be the energy that we have to have from the jump.
A little more from Tobias Harris in a bit. Tobias led the 76ers in scoring in the first round, averaging 25 points per game as the Sixers look ahead to taking on, Lauren, an Atlanta team that is vastly different than Washington. I think Washington, of course, they had 2 stars, an MVP in Russell Westbrook and a perennial all-star and scoring champion candidate in Bradley Beal. But for this Atlanta team, it is deeper. It is built better, in my opinion, than the Washington Wizards. Yes, Trey Young, an all-star himself. He is the central piece, the focal point, but there are pieces around him that come together and fit really well.
I like what Doc Rivers said yesterday at practice about how difficult it is to advance beyond the conference semifinals because of the caliber of competition. The Hawks certainly bring that, but something you and I have talked about quite a bit. You mentioned Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, really good guys to warm up on. That was an awesome series for the Sixers to start to get their footing against really experienced playoff players and really potent offensive weapons. And now, of course, the Hawks, a higher caliber team with maybe weapons that are even more potent, but a little bit less experienced. So you sort of take some, you lose some with this Hawks team. Looking forward to seeing the way that the Sixers can apply the lessons they learned in the first round to this second round. And more on that from me in a little bit.
Yeah, the 76ers and the Hawks, they played 3 times during the regular season. Trey Young played in 2 of those games, one of which was a loss. Sixers played the Hawks in a back-to-back series at home towards the end of the regular season. One of the games, they just destroyed them, 127-83, and got them pretty good the next time around, 126-104. Sixers lost their first meeting of the Hawks, 112-94, back in January, but that, of course, was 2 days, Lauren, after the Sixers had their first spate of COVID absences. Seth Curry didn't play that game. Ben Simmons was out, so was Tobias Harris. Joel Embiid and Danny Green were the only 2 starters that played, and that game was down in Atlanta. The 76ers lost. But there's an Atlanta native, Dwight Howard, looking forward to this series. So I think, Lauren, this will be entertaining. One thing I would be surprised about is, despite Atlanta's inexperience, if they showed any sign of being awed or intimidated by the moment. Now, maybe with 19,000 in the house, it could be a little bit different. But listen, everyone saw what Madison Square Garden was like in that opening round series for the Hawks against the Knicks. And all Trey Young did was go out and drop 30 points in each of the 3 games the Hawks played at the Garden.
Yeah, Trey Young certainly still young in his career, but not acting like it. He took control over a more experienced Knicks team in a very hostile environment and really thrived off of it. So Sixers fans, of course, are going to bring it during this series, but Trey Young is going to embrace it, just like Joel Embiid says that he embraces things on the road. A lot of young superstars in this series. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they all match up against one another.
Trey Young with a more well-rounded lineup surrounding him. He actually took a dip in scoring this year slightly, averaging around 4 points fewer per game, 25.5 during the regular season. He played less minutes as well. But this Atlanta team, Lauren, is one that made a coaching change in the beginning of March. Former 76ers assistant Lloyd Pierce out. Veteran head coach Nate McMillan, who's been with Portland and Indiana, stepped in. And the Hawks ripped off 8 consecutive victories. That catapulted them on this path to the 5 seed in the East. And there's Trey Young right now. Great job, Coletti and Trevor, as we get a live look at the center. And, the Hawks, they finished with the best record in the East after making that coaching change. A few wins better than the 76ers. So this is not an opponent that is going to be taken lightly, and we know that some of the veterans line spoke about that.
Well, they're peaking at the right time, these Atlanta Hawks. And like you said, the Sixers have talked about the fact that the regular season series might not have told the whole story when it comes to these Atlanta Hawks, especially with that first game on the road, with the Sixers having about half of their personnel available. And then, of course, the Hawks really started to hit their peak following those next 2 games. It'll be interesting to see the way that they've grown, but also the way that the Sixers have grown since these teams last met one another. I know it's a group that is looking forward to seeing each other, and that's something I talked to Tobias Harris about yesterday after practice.
Hey, Tobias, good to see you. Because of the way that the regular season matchup went down with the Hawks in that first game, a lot of you guys were unavailable because of health and safety protocols. There's not that much material to base this playoff series or see what's to come based on the regular season. So how does that inform the way that you prepare, and how much are you looking forward to sort of getting a fresh shot and a new chess match with a little bit of an unfamiliar opponent?
Yeah, I think, this will be our first time playing versus each other pretty much like with full squads. So I think that's a good thing. Obviously, we've watched them, knowing, they were playing the Knicks, so we were watching that series. So they're a very dynamic team with a lot of skilled players, really good talent as well. So we know what we're going against. And at the same time, we also understand what we have to bring to the table night in, night out. So I think the beauty of it is just it's another opportunity and another challenge that we want to take on and be ready for. Especially starting with game 1. So, we're excited for that. And I think that's, we've had these days that we've been in the gym, getting better and working on our stuff, just sharpening some of our skills here. So we're ready.
And then Dwight shared with us yesterday that he's really impressed with the way that you prepare your body, but he's equally impressed with the way that you prepare your mind. Can you take us a little bit through how you prepare mentally during the playoffs?
That's a big secret right there. Honestly, just really visualization is a big thing for me. Seeing things, it's see it to believe it. I kind of like believe in that type of little quote there. But at the same time, obviously things happen with, mind, body, soul.
Hey, Tobias, good to see you. Because of the way that the regular season matchup went down with the Hawks in that first game, a lot of you guys were unavailable because of health and safety.
I think we lost the last bit of that Tobias Harris interview right there, but enjoyed hearing about Tobias and his outlook for things for this series. And Lauren, I'm going to go real quick now to one of our Inside the Matchup segments with Jay Crafton, who helps break down some of the good we saw from Ben Simmons from that triple-double performance on Wednesday. And then looking ahead to the main guy from the Hawks side, of course, is Trey Young.
This is Jay Crafton, and it's time to go inside the matchup. We talked about Ben being at his best to close out this series the other night against the Wizards, and he did that with 15 points, 10 rebounds, and 11 assists. Incredible game for Ben. Let's talk about his dynamic performance and just starting the game out. I really liked how he started out in the first few possessions with some extreme, intense, and aggressive drives to the rim to kind of set the tone and say, I'm here for a physical game, and you're going to have to deal with me for 48 minutes. I love the IQ and savviness that he showed while he was playing the 5 spot. You see him setting screenaways, then flashing to the high post area and still driving to the basket. You also see him hanging around that dunker spot, and as other guards drive the ball, dumping it off to him. I love when he talked about in the press conference in the postgame about his willingness to sacrifice himself for whatever the team needs. He's going to play the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, or the 5. He was unbelievable the other night. His decision-making was on par. He's up 3 assists in the playoffs from the regular season, and his rebounding on the offensive end and the defensive end gives him a chance to show you why he's one of the elite players in the league. Keep doing a great job, Ben. We're going to definitely need you against the Atlanta Hawks. Now, let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks as we get into the second round playoff series. If you guys remember, in the first round, we came in talking a lot about stopping Russell Westbrook's aggressiveness in transition. You're going to see a lot of that same approach trying to stop Trey Young and his ability to just make plays in transition. Here's the difference. Russ was an intense, athletic, aggressive athlete that was constantly trying to put pressure on the rim with his ferociousness. Trey has a higher level of skill, so he's a guy that's going to put pressure on the rim, but he's also going to pull up from three from deep. So you're going to see the Sixers likely come out and say, hey, you know what, let's get out there and try to stop the ball early. All right, when he gets in those early pick and roll situations, let's bring that drop coverage up and maybe hedge and try to keep pushing him away from the basket. Trey does a great job of coming off screens early in transition, knocking down threes. And then he's elite when he gets in the paint with different types of floaters and skill plays. So I look for the Sixers to try to keep some physicality against him. His physicality is not like Russell Westbrook. So look for Danny Green and Tobias as these guys get into switching situations to really get physical with them. Try not to get into foul trouble, but get physical with him. Try to muscle him off that path. As you get the 5 men and the forwards out there trying to hedge those screens, just really trying to push out his offense so he doesn't have that confidence to feel like he can shoot it off pick and rolls or get downhill and get into his passing game or his finishing game. Trey's a tough guy to guard. His scoring is up, his assists are up, his game is on the rise. He's a young player that's going to be tough to stop, but it's going to be a total team effort, and I know Doc's going to have the defense ready to go. This is Jay Crafton. I'm on the road, a little bit different type of background, but you just still went inside the matchup.
Eternally grateful for Jay Crafton's insights on Inside the Matchup. I learn something every time, and he gets me fired up for what is to come. Speaking of what's to come, on today's broadcast, Lisa Salters, who is local to Philadelphia and a star at what she does, will be on the broadcast, and I had the pleasure of catching up with her to preview the matchup yesterday.
I am joined now by the one and only local reporter phenom, Lisa Salters. Lisa, thank you so much for doing this. And what I want to start off with is you get this broad view of the national landscape and what the other great teams in the NBA look like. Where do you think the Sixers fit into that landscape? Let's say when they're at their best.
Right up there with the Milwaukees, the Nets, the Phoenix Suns. I've had the pleasure to do a few Sixers games this season, and one thing has been the same. They get out to this really big lead, and then the game is really close at the end. So I think that once, we were just, listening to, you and I both were listening to the Zoom where Kirk, I get his name mixed up all the time, but he was saying how what they learned from, being in the playoffs before is that you've got to play 48 minutes. And that was one thing that I found concerning watching the Sixers play earlier in the year, is that they would just play really hard at the beginning, jump out to these, 15, 20, 25 point leads. And then the game was always close at the end. So I think that if they can get through that hurdle, they certainly have the talent to play with anyone. They're one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league. But the playoffs are a different animal. You really have to be on it every possession. And I think if Doc can instill that in them, that they have a great chance.
Ben and Joel obviously are sort of these wells of endless potential, but they don't have the experience yet going all the way. And bringing in Danny Green and Dwight Howard, those are guys that really do preach that full 48 and the intensity, and they've shared a lot of playoff experience now with the younger guys. What do you think about the addition of specifically those two, bringing in this playoff and championship experience that the team was lacking before?
I think it should be very important. I was just talking to Dwight Howard yesterday about this. Just for him. And, this is a completely different role for him. I mean, it's a role that he's had, he had it in LA with the Lakers. But I was talking to him about, earlier in his career when kind of he was the guy, and how his role now is just to be ready if Joel is not able to play big minutes. Dwight has to be ready and available to play big minutes. And it's important to have guys like that, like Danny Green, who they have been through the fire before. Dwight has now won a championship. Danny Green is going for a three-peat on 3 different teams. I don't think that's ever been done before. But like I said, talent is one thing, but experience, that's something else as well. So you see a lot of talented teams that don't make it because they lack that experience that kind of gets you over the hump. So, the additions of Danny Green, of Dwight Howard, I think will be really important, especially for guys like Ben Simmons and Joel, who, even though they've been to the playoffs, they haven't been all the way in the playoffs, and they're still young. Seth, I mean, they're all kind of young. They haven't been there and done that the way that Dwight and Danny have. So I think that, being able to look to them, especially for guys like Tyrese, Matisse, it's critical to have someone that can kind of say to you what Danny Green was saying yesterday on the Zoom availability, not just to say, look how great this is, but when things aren't going well. This happened to me. I shot 0 for whatever in this game, and this is how you bounce back. Guys who, when things aren't going so well, guys who have been there before, to show the young guys, to calm them down, to quiet the noise, to kind of say, this is how you navigate when things aren't going so well. I think that'll be important for the 76ers this season, this playoff run.
Great stuff from Lauren Rosen and Lisa Salters. Always awesome to hear from Lisa, who, yes, has some local ties to this area and also Penn State. All right, Lauren, we are closing in about 50 minutes away from tip-off time in game 1 of the second round. We should learn probably within the next 20 to 25 minutes what Joel Embiid's status is. No update on that. He's still questionable. We do need to knock out real quick some keys to today's opener of the second round. Lauren, we will start with you.
Well, Seltz, my first key to the game for game 1 is the same as my key to the game from our last game 1. It's all about stopping the primary offensive threat. So I said the young patrol has to get engaged early and often. That patrol, of course, headlined by Ben Simmons, Matisse Thybulle, Danny Green, maybe George Hill. There are a large group that can do a really good job against elite players on this 76ers team. If they can activate early and maintain the intensity that they've been able to do all season long against great players like Trey, Sixers are going to have a good time. Doc Rivers says it. You can't stop him, but you can slow him down. That is the goal. That is the key. Slow down Trey as a patrol.
So, for the Sixers, they are a good rebounding team. Atlanta, a very good rebounding team as well. My key was get on the glass and be the best on the boards. That can apply with or without Joel Embiid in the lineup today. The 76ers have to rebound the basketball. Don't give Atlanta another opportunity to knock down a three, which is what they're very good at. Don't give another opportunity to Trey Young to make some damage by driving inside, something like that. Be the best you can be on the boards, because that is a strength for the Atlanta Hawks. We want to thank Trevor Gaffney and Ryan Coletti, you as well, Lauren Rosen, Lisa Salters, Jay Kratz, and Tobias Harris. Great show today as we zoom through it to get to the opener of the first round. We will talk to you before game 2 of the series on Tuesday night. Enjoy the opener today. Let's hope we're talking about a Sixers win. See ya.